Hey guys, welcome back. It's Kneon. This is CLOWNFISH TV. We're going to talk about that box office for the Rise of Skywalker. We're going to talk about some of the fallout from this disappointing weekend, which, you know, any other movie franchise, if you talked about the kind of money that Rise of Skywalker brought in this weekend, it would have been considered a huge slam dunk. And not for Star Wars, though. Not for the final Star Wars in the Skywalker saga. The movie came in far below the original projections, which were supposed to be north of $225 million for the weekend. Then they adjusted down to $200 million for the weekend. And then they adjusted down to $160 to $190 for the weekend. And it wound up around $175 for the weekend. Failed miserably in China. It made less money than Knives Out and Dark Phoenix on their opening weekend. So that's pretty bad. And I understand Star Wars never performs that well, but even Disney Star Wars has performed much better in the very recent past. So something is up. But everybody's like, oh my God, why are you trying to spin this as doom and gloom? And I'm not. We're not. We actually are Disney stockholders. I don't like to lose money, which is why I don't like to read headlines like this, that Star Wars had such a rough opening weekend that the Disney stock fell. Yeah, the Disney stock dropped on Monday because The Rise of Skywalker did not meet expectations. Now, this is going to be really interesting at the next shareholders earnings call, because the last call that I sat in on, Bob Iger he kept sidestepping anything to do with Star Wars. He didn't want to talk about it. He was talking about Disney Plus. He's talking about how amazing Disney Plus was going to be, how that was the future of Disney. And he did not want to talk about the elephant in the room, or the bantha in the room, which was Star Wars Galaxy's Edge underperforming. The movie is not doing as well as they had hoped for. Now, this is significantly better than Solo, but again, it falls short. And we're going to talk about that and talk about what Disney is going to look like in 2020, because I'm looking at the slate of movies for 2020 and I'm not seeing a lot of massive tent poles like they had this year. You're not going to have another Endgame. You're just not. So before we get into the video, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We're at about 85,000 subs, hoping for 100,000 soon. Thank you so much for the support, guys. Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate Christmas, and happy holidays to everybody else. Happy New Year to everybody. And we're going to talk about this. Star Wars had a rough opening weekend. This is Barron's, right? Reputable publication. Star Wars had a rough opening weekend. That's making Disney stock fall. It did. Now, I believe it bounced back a little bit today, but it did not set well with analysts that The Rise of Skywalker came in at the low end of predictions. So only for box office juggernaut Walt Disney is a $175 million opening weekend haul considered a flop. Barron's calling The Rise of Skywalker a flop at $175 million. That's youch. Add in international ticket sales and Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker brought in a whopping $373 million from December 20th to the 22nd. According to Box Office Mojo, Cats, which also opened last weekend, managed just $6.5 million in domestic ticket sales. We're going to talk about Cats too, how badly Cats did. I couldn't have even predicted this. I think everybody was calling for about 15-20 million for Cats, and it was a complete bust for Universal. Yet Disney stock is down 1% on Monday. It is back up a little bit versus the rise for the S&P 500 index. The last of 9 episodes of the Star Wars saga, there are six, I think, received lackluster reviews. Fans were more positive on the film, giving it an 86% audience score per Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, that is dubious. A lot of people pointed out that Rotten Tomatoes has not fluctuated at all since opening day, and we actually had a live stream. We had a live stream on opening day, first live stream we've done in like 2 months, and we were looking at Rotten Tomatoes. We're watching Rotten Tomatoes to see what the audience scores were going to be, because when we started the live stream, there weren't any audience scores, and they've been locked at 86% for days. Very strange. But I digress. The Rise of Skywalker's opening weekend lagged behind earlier installments. They talk about that. Beyond direct ticket sales, Disney has several other avenues to make money from its films. They include toys and apparel and other merchandise. Yeah, none of that's selling now. Not as well as it used to. Amusement park rides, cruises, and other events. Don't worry, Disney's fine. Well, yeah, Disney's fine. Disney's okay. I mean, Disney had a banner year, but Disney's also spent money like crazy this year, on Fox and the streaming service, getting Disney Plus up and running, expanding the theme parks. They've commissioned 3 new cruise ships. Disney is spending a shit ton of money this year, so they have to make a shit ton of money. So yeah, to Disney, this is a huge disappointment because it just further cements that Star Wars has weakened. It has weakened. Star Wars is not the brand it once was. It's not money in the bank. It's not a surefire thing. Somehow, Disney has managed. Oh wow, it is down. Okay, Disney stock is down. Somehow, Disney has managed to, kind of derail Star Wars in like 5 or 6 years. There's no Star Wars toys, no merchandise on the shelves for the most part. Not compared to what it used to be. Even when there weren't any movies, even when the Clone Wars wasn't on, we always had Star Wars toys on the shelves. And what is there is not selling. Disney has failed to create a new audience for Star Wars. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to create a new audience for Star Wars. They wanted Star Wars for the Karens, the wine moms, and all the kids, and Star Wars for a very, very general audience, which Star Wars always has been for a general audience, but, it sort of became kind of a nerd thing. And now they want, people who maybe have never been interested in Star Wars to be interested in Star Wars. They're doing this with Marvel too. They're trying to make it a lifestyle brand. And it's just not, you can't serve two masters, right? And this is sort of what's going on, I think. Disney is trying very hard to, look, when they're slapping Star Wars on appliances and doing all this goofy ass shit that doesn't even go with the brand or the demographic. It's clear that Disney doesn't even know who to market Star Wars to other than let's try marketing it to everybody. And it's not working very well. It really isn't. And the Rise of Skywalker proved that to Disney, Star Wars is just a product. They completely rolled back a lot of Rian Johnson's decisions in The Last Jedi, which were very questionable decisions, admittedly, but then they wind up with a movie that really was for nobody, right? They made a lot of decisions that were going to piss off the fans. But again, it feels like they're making movies by committee at this point. And that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. Anyway, Motley Fool points out that Episode 9's domestic opening came in well below the $248 million opening for The Force Awakens and the $220 million opening for The Last Jedi, and the decline in international performance is similarly stark. The Rise of Skywalker delivered an international opening of roughly $373 million, down from the $437 million for The Last Jedi and $494 million for The Force Awakens. Judged by the standards of a less storied franchise, the opening weekend for the latest Star Wars could be heralded as a huge win. Yeah, any other franchise it would have been. But the picture is different when placed in the context of previous titles in the series. Basically, Star Wars is declining. It's not just us. It's not just YouTube. Tons of, outlets that cover entertainment and finance saying that Star Wars is a weakened brand. A weakened brand. The Rise of Skywalker came in at the low end of tracking estimates. Yeah, it's funny. We had people trying to argue with us that, well, they only projected 160 to 190 million. They actually beat the low end. It's like, no, you don't understand that. But 160 to 190 million was the low end. It originally was projected for over 200 million easy. Just a couple months ago, they were talking 225 on up. Because this is supposed to be the last Star Wars in the numerical Skywalker saga, and it just kept going down, down, down. Again, not the disaster that Solo was, but definitely not a home run. At the end of November, the picture was projected to post opening weekend sales between 175 and 200 million, just days before its debut. Projections had the picture tracking to post a global opening north of 450 million. I remember that. I remember just last week they had articles. Oh, The Rise of Skywalker is going to make 450 million. It's going to break records. And then we started seeing all these empty theaters Thursday night, or half empty theaters. It was like something's definitely up. Something is up. The table below breaks down opening weekends. Yeah, you can see there's taking out Rogue One, taking out Solo. for the numerical Star Wars Skywalker saga. It's dropping. Nobody predicted that. Even Forbes was like, look, the Star Wars trilogies, how they usually work is the first installment is the biggest one because people haven't had Star Wars in a while. The second one takes a dip, you know, and then the third one, it comes back strong because this is the last Star Wars movie you're going to get for how long? And it could be. People are like, well, who gives a shit? We got better Star Wars on TV on Disney Plus. That could be it. Disney did not succeed at building an audience for the franchise in China. That's hugely important. They tried. They tried very hard. The entertainment industry's most important growth market in recent years, Skywalker tallied a meager $12 million in its opening in the country, is now projected to gross just $22 million at Chinese theaters, well below the $126 million for The Force Awakens and the $42 million for The Last Jedi. Rogue One even had $69 million. Of course, it had Donnie Yen in it too, so that helps. Attention now turns to how Skywalker holds up in the coming weeks. Now they're already comparing it to Batman vs. Superman. They're already comparing the Rise of Skywalker to Batman vs. Superman. They said famously posted a massive $420 million global opening in 2016. More than the Rise of Skywalker, but it wound up delivering just $872 million in lifetime ticket sales. And it's not unusual to see big drop-offs if word of mouth isn't strong. Word of mouth for this movie is terrible. Episode 9 will still likely cross the $1 billion mark at the box office. Why is Star Wars fading? It would be a dream come true. $373 million would be a dream come true. For most other pictures, it looks like a disappointment in the world of big budget franchise building. Declining ticket sales for the sequel trilogy's concluding installment adds another concerning data point for the property's trajectory. The Star Wars fan base appears to be divided on what they want from the series. Merchandise sales have declined sharply over the last 4 years, and Disney's Galaxy's Edge theme park attractions have gotten off to weaker than expected starts. Some industry watchers have attributed recent disappointments to Star Wars fatigue, with waning interest stemming from Disney releasing too many movies in the franchise too soon. The company has released 5 films in 4 years. While release timing for entries like Solo, a Star Wars story, can be called into question, no, Solo was released in May, just like the original 6 movies, and it didn't hurt them at all. Nobody gave a shit. The release schedule hardly looks like overkill when viewed in the context of today's franchise-driven film industry. Yeah, look at the MCU. The MCU saw 3 releases in 2019, each of which proved to be successful. The tremendous success for The Mandalorian on Disney Plus also confounds the idea that audiences have universally grown tired of Star Wars. It seems more than likely that many fans lost interest in the world of the sequel trilogy because they were unimpressed with the quality of the output. And this spilled over into merchandise and theme park performance. You don't base your theme park on the sequel trilogy when the trilogy's not over and you don't know how people are going to react to it. That is probably the biggest tactical error they made with Galaxy's Edge, was switching gears and basing it on the sequel trilogy, which is now gonna forever be viewed as a decline in Star Wars. But you know what? How much money would it cost them to revert everything back to original trilogy? Because that's what the Imagineers had originally planned. As I understand it, Imagineering went into creating a Star Wars land based on the original trilogy, based on Tatooine, based on Endor, and Bob Iger decided he wanted to switch it up because The Force Awakens made a bunch of money. One movie into the sequel trilogy, and they're betting the farm on the sequel trilogy when the original trilogy is universally loved. You know, really stupid decision. So they're talking about how comments from cast and production members suggest that The Last Jedi director Rian Johnson wrote most of his script for his film prior to The Force Awakens being completed. That's true. And did away with many of its predecessors' thematic and narrative threads. The change in direction seems to have been divisive for audiences and internally at Lucasfilm. The production history for the franchise's relaunch under Disney has been troubled and convoluted, and these difficulties have had an impact on performance. A lot of people blame The Last Jedi. And the people who love The Last Jedi are blaming The Rise of Skywalker. Somewhere along the way, an almost political divide seems to have solidified among the Star Wars fandom, and that's going to make plotting the franchise's next moves more difficult. Are we going to have 2 Star Wars? Are we going to have Star Wars for the old heads? And then a new Star Wars to try to nab a new audience? Who knows? I don't know. Hey, maybe Disney Plus isn't a Netflix killer. Imagine that. Imagine that. But yeah, everybody, Wall Street Journal, Disney's bad weekend. Bad weekend, Wall Street Journal. Not just YouTube. It's not just YouTube. So let's talk real quick about cats. Because somebody has to. Somebody has to talk about cats. Hashtag Cats Army. Cats need love. Cats need love. So the box office, The Rise of Skywalker underperforms and Cats bombed. We have been calling the underperformance of The Rise of Skywalker for months based on what we were seeing. We never said it would bomb. I could not have predicted Cats bombing this hard, though. Cats bombed so hard they had to release a patch to fix the special effects while the movie was in the theater, which is a very dangerous thing to do. It's a very dangerous precedent to set because now studios can fix movies while they're still playing in the theater. And that just opens up a whole nother can of worms, doesn't it? And you know that studios are totally going to take advantage of that. Totally going to take advantage of it. But Cats only made $6 million, $6.5 million. And it's one of the top 20 worst openings for wide release of all time. Cats did horribly bad for Universal. So there's not going to be a Cats 2. And I kind of wonder if this isn't going to put the kibosh on other musicals, because the reason I think Cats got greenlit was because of La La Land and The Greatest Showman and other musicals released around the holidays because they seem to do well. But the movie has to be good. The movie has to be good, and Cats was not that good from what I've heard. Our kids actually want to see Cats before Star Wars. I am not kidding. So when it comes to the dollar theater, I think we'll give Cats a little love and maybe go check out Cats. But anyway, just wanted to talk more about the box office. I'm sorry, none of the publications, none of the media outlets, none of the financial analysts are saying that this was a home run slam dunk for Disney. It's actually a bad look because this movie should have been another Endgame. Now, the problem is next year. Disney had a ton of billion-dollar plus movies this year. A ton. They had 10, 12? And they had a phenomenal year. The problem is next year, they don't have nearly the slate that they had this year. So it's going to be really hard for them to top this year. And the thing with investors is they expect more money every year. They're not going to like that, hey, studios are down, 40% this year because we don't have another Avengers. The investors will be like, well, go make another Avengers Endgame. Go make another, franchise, a tentpole franchise. And it's not that easy. Because this year, all we've got Mulan, which I don't think is going to do that well. It does not look good. 2 Pixar films, Onward and Soul. I am not sold on Onward, but Soul, I'm interested in Soul because it actually looks like a Pixar movie. A film based on the Jungle Cruise, which might actually be a hit. It's got The Rock in it. We're actually kind of looking forward to that. But we have Black Widow and Thor. I think Thor comes out this year. But there's nothing major. There is no Endgame. There is no Last Star Wars. There is no Lion King remake. Mulan was kind of a B-list movie, and this version does not look that good, in my opinion. They're running out of the A-list animated movies to pillage for remakes. They've already done most of the big ones, with Little Mermaid coming down the pipeline. I'm not sure how that's going to go. So, I don't know. 2020 is going to be a very interesting year for Disney. And that's, going to be the year that kind of makes or breaks, I think, Disney Plus, because they're going to have some real competition with HBO Max and Peacock from Universal. And I don't know how Disney Plus is going to hold up, when you've got HBO, Universal, and everybody else knocking on your door in addition to Netflix. It might not go well. So we'll see. All right, so I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.